change for once in my life. It's gonna very good, gonna make a difference, gonna make it right. As I turn up the collar on my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind. I see the kids in the streets, not enough to eat. Who am I to be blind, pretending not to see their needs? As I must disregard a broken bottle top and a one-man soul. They follow each other on the wind, you know.
Yes, we're back like we never left. It's the Man in the Mirror show. And we call it The because it's a personal journey. It's about self. Today, we have a very, very special topic. But before we even get into our guests and the topic itself, you know what we do here. We introduce the host. And to my far left, it's the man, the myth, the bow tie.
Yes, sir.
Him.
Yes, sir.
Mr.
Yes,
Nate
sir. Yes, sir.
Jenkins.
Welcome back. Welcome back. We here like we never left. Welcome back to Man in the Mirror, show that matters. And to my left, we have that young man, the sage of the group, Mr. Rodney Grimes.
Yes.
Peace and blessings to everyone. It's good to be back. New attitude, new direction. And, it's the show that matters. So everything we bring to you is to better your life, give you some direction.
All right.
What else?
It's the show that matters, bro.
What you supposed to do? You got the ball.
Oh, you got to pass the ball.
You got to pass the ball. You going to shoot, dribble, pass.
Hey, what happens when you've been out the game for a minute?
You get
Take a little
rusty.
time for you to get the
Yeah,
rust
yeah.
off. You got to shake the rust off.
You got to shake the rust off. I get it.
You
But
get
then
3 seconds or something.
I got you, bro. And we bring it back to Mr. Boo Jones.
Mr. Boo Jones.
Yes, my man.
Quarterback, point guard.
Referee.
You know what I'm saying? Dish that thing.
Yeah.
You know
Hey,
what
but
I'm
look,
saying?
you guys. Hey, man, it's good to be back with you guys, man. Love you guys, man.
Yeah.
And I know Mr. Roddy had been going through his own ordeal, but the key thing is going through.
Yeah.
He ain't stuck in it. He's going through.
Yeah,
And we just want to say that we love you, man, and our prayers always been with you.
without a doubt.
And it's funny because tonight's guest and the topic itself wraps into adversity, because that's what it is. Whatever it is, it's about adversity. It's about overcoming and going through. So the guest we have here today, before I get to introduce this is very distinguished guy, I'm going to give y'all the topic.
We'd appreciate it.
Yeah. The topic tonight is black men parenting.
What? I heard that was a myth.
Yeah. It seems like
Destroy that myth tonight. That's what we doing.
Yeah.
We myth slayers tonight.
So like that's like a leprechaun riding a unicorn.
Yeah.
Because they say it ain't so.
Say it don't
But
exist.
but we got proof.
We know better.
Facts.
Yeah.
So with that being said, the guy we got tonight, the guest, is a guy that I know for a short but strong period of time. And we're gonna let him tell his story, but I want to introduce Mr. Leonard Parker.
Mr. Parker.
How's everybody doing?
Yeah. Welcome, Mr. Parker.
You said yes, but I'm just a humble man. I try to remain humble because humility is what drives us. When we lose humility, we lose ourselves and we lose our direction. And
So what we want you to do is, like most guests, we want to tell a little bit about yourself, so the audience can get a little personal, render the words.
Yeah, we want to get a rendition of who you are.
That is
what you done,
a
where you
rendition.
been,
Yeah,
and
that's
related
it. That's
to
it.
that topic.
See, I go to my own
We
personal
talk about
dictionary.
black fathers. So we had a brief discussion earlier,
Yeah.
right? And we talked about when it started for us as single black fathers, right? Because we know that there's a lot of good black fathers out there. Yeah, tough job. When the rubber hit the road, it's when you by yourself with it.
Yeah. So, but we want
Tell us more about who you are, what you do.
Yeah, right there.
You know
That part.
and then get into your journey in regards to being a black father.
Okay. Well, right now I'm the father of 4 daughters, a son, three grandkids. I am married now, but the journey didn't start that way.
Okay.
The journey started when I got a phone call and said I can't take care of this 3-month-old child and you need to take him. And you know, I was a young man living my life.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, nothing to hold me down, nothing to tie me down, and then all of a sudden I was thrust into
Parenthood.
single parenthood. You know, and it initially started very fearful because I didn't know how to be a parent.
Okay.
I didn't know how to be a parent. I just knew that in my mind, my job was just supposed to be to provide for them, you know. But then I realized quickly that it's a lot more than that, you know. We when you handed this 3-month-old child and you got to learn how to change diapers, you have to learn how to, you know, when a baby cry in the middle of the night, is he crying because he wet? Is he crying because he hungry? You know, you have to know, you know, you just have to know how to respond to these things. And sometimes it gets tough because you don't know. You're learning, you know. So, you know, what I've learned is, you know, we already have a protective instinct as fathers.
Right.
You know, and my protective instinct immediately kicked in. But it was something that a lie was proven that it was a lie when they said that a woman can't raise a man, that was a lie.
Right.
And the reason I say that was a lie was because a lot of what my mother taught me kicked right in when it came down to my son. You know, how she raised me, you know, and even though a lot of men wouldn't openly say, but we have a fatherly instinct, but we also have a motherly instinct.
Right.
And that motherly instinct kicks in when it needed to. You know, but it was you know, it was scary. You know, it was scary. You know, just the whole process. And let me say this before I continue is my hat's off to women.
Yeah.
Single mothers.
Without a
you
doubt.
know,
That part
because
right there.
it's easy to say what they don't have to do, but when you're doing it, it's a whole different story.
Woo. What?
You know, and I've learned to respect being a single parent more single mothers than anything, because when I was thrust into it, you know, the whole finding a babysitter, the whole taking them and picking them up and making sure they eat and still got to work and still got to clean and still got to do all the things I need to do for me. And that in itself was a challenge. You know, I'm used to football, you know, but you got to sacrifice those things. You got to sacrifice going to hang out with the boys. You got to sacrifice the parties. You got to sacrifice, you know, calling the young lady up that you're dating or that you're hanging out with, you know, because now you're responsible for another human being, you know, which is not an easy task when you don't know, you know. So you know, I learned, it was hands-on learning for me.
Yeah.
You know, but I also had, when you have to recognize when the child is in distress. You know, and just a quick incident was, I had a hard time sleeping at night because I was so afraid he was going to stop breathing. You know, I mean, just that protective instinct, you know, waking up and checking and checking.
And all that, yeah.
And one night I checked and he was shaking, and I took him to the hospital and found out he had pneumonia. You know, the challenge was I didn't know how to accept what the people at the hospital was doing because I didn't know. You know, and then the baby, when they take X-rays, they have to sometimes put them in this thing, this body thing to hold them still. They had to call security because I thought they was hurting them. But that's that protective instinct,
Right.
you know. But I had to learn how to, you know, control that thing because everybody, you know, sometimes you just got to step back and let the professionals do what the professionals do, you know. So, you know, just, you know, man, one thing for sure and one thing for certain, it's a commitment. Yeah. And it's a commitment like you've never known, you know, and in order for you to be efficient, in order for you to be able to lay the foundation for your child, you have to be able to be committed to the process, and it is a process.
For sure.
You know, I've had some health challenges in the past, and for me, it's always about finding things to help me to understand and how to manage certain things. So, for me, I was diagnosed with diabetes 35 years ago. And when the doctors ran down to me, you know, this is what's going to happen. This is going to happen if you don't do this. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. So I'm very health conscious about taking care of myself. So what I did was, what helped me be able to take care of my son was, if I neglected my health, that means I put myself in a dire situation. So I took care of him like I took care of my health, you know, because as long as I take care of my health, then I can maintain my life. And as long as I take care of him, I can maintain his life.
Right.
You know, so for me, you know, when I looked at him, I seen me, you know, and because I'm health conscious, because, you know, and just to kind of give you 35 years of being diagnosed with diabetes, 35 years ago, being on insulin, I'm no longer on insulin. I take one pill a day, never had any complications from it.
Okay.
So that's how important it was to me. But I took that same energy and I put it into taking care of my child, whatever it is, you know. So, you know, making sure his health was straight, making sure all the way up, man, to high school, man, I made sure that he got a ride to school. And a part of that protective thing was, you know, the neighborhood we lived in, you know, when you live in this neighborhood and that neighborhood beefing with this neighborhood and this neighborhood beefing with this neighborhood, and he had to walk through those neighborhoods to get to school, and he wasn't a part of any of it. So for me, I still had to protect him. I sat there while football practice was going on, made sure he got a ride home, made sure he got a ride to school, because I have a hard time losing what God had blessed me with to some nonsense that he had nothing to do with. You know, so again, it wasn't just a commitment as a baby, but it was a commitment all the way to his adulthood. You know, so
you talking about the ongoing process. It's not just the initial, okay, now I got a child. So I heard some preparation about self-care in conjunction with, if I do this, it's going to help take care of my son. So that's a good message that I want everybody to listen to. That, you know, if you're taking care of yourself, then you're taking care of your loved one.
You know, for me, you know, process of maturation, right? So my situation is similar. You got your son.
You were 3 months.
3 months old. So for me, I was a single dad, right? I got a mob at one time, right? Okay. So I had a daughter with my first wife. We shared custody. But then my second wife, we had 3 girls. We had some lifestyle struggles, things of that nature. But we both kind of straightened our lives out. But in the process, she took on the girls by herself. She was early in her new way of life, and she made a determination that being a single mom was not my script, because in all actuality, I was the one who wanted those kids, right? But, you know, when you want kids, you never look forward and say, you know, it's going to come a time when we're not together. What about the kids? So she made that decision for me. I was 9 months into my new way of life, so that meant I was in the process of trying to recapture my youth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm partying hard. I'm going to all the events. You know, I'm living clean and sober. I'm doing all these things, and I'm catching all these female vibes, right? And I got another job, and I'm just living this whole single man's life, right? And I get a call. We have an argument. She decides. She said, "You know what? You want it perfect, and you can do it perfect. You can take these 3 on your own." So I got hit with a 3-piece off the bat, and they were.
Let me intervene, because I know each one of you guys' story. Just want the people to know. You were taking care of 3 girls.
Yeah, I'm getting.
You had a son.
Yeah, the son.
Right.
But my girls.
So
were,
dynamics was a little different too.
Yeah, that's where I was going. So for him, and I have sons now, so you know I can kind of relate to the dynamics of raising a son, right? But for me, for girls, you talk about that protection piece. It's on height, right? Because not only were they girls, they were young, right? We talking about little girls. You know, we talking 4, 6, and 8, right? And you know, I got to look out for pedophile, the protection in the streets, the whole 9, right? But what I did learn was I couldn't do it by myself. So that whole "it takes a village to raise a child" piece was thrust on me. And I had a great mom and some good sisters. So that same year, fortunate enough, all of us got divorced at the same time. So my mom said, "I like this big old house over here, and there's enough room for you and them girls," and we all mobbed together into this one spot. And they helped me with those girls, right? But the maturation was slow for me as a single dad, right? Because I was still sowing my roll of oats. Come on, let's be real. I was out there. So what happened for me was the lack of maturation said that my mom and my sister became babysitters, right?
So
And
let's
and I kept going.
Let me quarterback a little bit. So you didn't have that.
So
Right, so
no,
that's
no,
why I'm giving the difference,
I
right?
did. Let me say this. I did have it, but they didn't allow me. They made me put my son first.
Right.
Meaning, if I said to them, "Can you watch Davon while I go out?" They would be like, "No, you got a child."
What? Your son ain't Davon.
Yeah.
I got a son named Davon.
Yeah. So
right.
so they held me accountable and they held me responsible. Because one thing my mother always said to me: it's easy to get caught up in the next time. They want to hold you in the right here
now.
and now. Where every once in a blue moon, yeah, go ahead, I'll babysit, but the every week thing, and no, right. you got a child to take care of.
Well, see, my situation was my mother was like your folk.
Mm-hmm.
Accountability. She said, "Boy, look here. We didn't move here or let you move here to be your babysitter."
Right.
So you tried your hand, though. You always said you tried your hand.
Oh, I tried my hand for a while, for about a year. And they got good and dusty and tired of it, sick and tired.
Yeah, Kareem.
So this what happened.
You cannot
right?
go out today.
God jumped in and said, "I'm going to help you out, young man. I'm going to put a blizzard on the city." So in 96, we had that big blizzard, right? And we got snowed in. So, when you snowed in with somebody, you get that cabin fever. I want to run. I want to see my friends. I want to do some things. Wasn't happening. So Mom and I got into a little mix-up, and she said, "You know what? This is the last day you can live here. You and them 3 little bunnies need to find somewhere to go. Wow. Put us out in 4 feet of snow." You talk about forcing your hand. Now, this ain't accountability. This desperation. And sometimes that's the best place for somebody to be, right? So in desperation, I took him to my ex-wife. And she said, I'm only going to hold him until you get your feet on the ground. And I'm thinking, okay, I got a little time. She said, no, you got 2 weeks. I had 2 weeks. That means I had 2 weeks to find an apartment and all this stuff. I found a 1-bedroom in the building that my sister managed. She said, we got a 1-bedroom. That's all you need. Jumped into that 1-bedroom, which means the girls had the bedroom. I had the couch. And it was just me and them. Accountability one-on-one.
So
and
say
that's where we went.
Oh, you over there, you gonna have to, I ain't gonna let you shoplift.
Yeah, he's
So,
just sitting there.
yeah, he know he ain't gonna be able to do it. So you got some questions. I know you got some questions. I know you got at least that.
I want to say to my young brother here, right? We are a part of one of the most strongest statistics that is hardly ever talked about in the general public.
Yes,
right?
yes.
There are statistics that say that children fathered and raised by single dads have a more successful rate
That's
in
a fact.
life
That's facts.
than other types of children, wherever they from. They're neck and neck with the 2-parent household child as far as their success.
It's second. It's second.
Yeah, but they're neck and neck.
Yeah.
They're not that far behind.
Yeah.
Right? And then, I love single mothers, but the statistics show that single mothers, the maturation of their children is a little more delayed because they're more nurturers in nature, where we're more detailed in nature in our raising.
And that's where my mother raising me balanced me, because I became a nurturer.
Okay.
And I loved on my son, in a way to show him that it's okay to love a man without feeling like something's wrong with it. You know what I mean? I never dropped him off at school, even in high school. I never dropped him off without saying I love you before he got out the car.
Okay.
In the mornings when he would get up, I used to play little games with him. He'd jump on my back and I call him by a different name. He'd be like, well, that's not my name, but that was our little game that we played, it's easy. Let me say this. We have been taught for many, many years that a man is supposed to stand on his own. A man is not supposed to cry. A man is not supposed to ask for help. He's supposed to,
big myths.
All big myths.
All
myths.
Yeah.
And I think the first time that my son seen me cry and understood what crying was, he was like, "Dad, are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." And instead of him saying, "Dad, why, what you crying for?" All he would say is gonna be okay. Mm-hmm. And it was at a time when he got injured and he was at the hospital, and I cried because of my child. He was in a situation I couldn't protect him because he was with somebody else. Right. And I'm crying, and this kid laying on the table and getting his hand sewed up because his hand got caught in the escalator at the metro station. He was with his mom and got chewed up pretty bad, and I'm crying and boo-hooing, and this kid getting his hand sewed up, and he's saying to me, "Dad, it's gonna be okay."
He worried about that.
He's worried about me, and that in itself at that young age, because he was only 4 at that time.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? But the love and the affection, because them stages of change, all those things are required, and that love and affection that I gave him was enough that even at 4 he can recognize when Dad needed a little love. He may not understood what he was doing, but what he did was let me know that I'm on track. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a father, and it's okay to cry and nurture, and because even now today at 26, when he going through something, if he calls me crying, I understand. And
he knows you understand.
He knows I understand.
Yeah, the relationship, yeah.
Because that's the relationship that we built. Through that process. So, a lot of myths were put to death in our lives with me and him. Again, a woman can't raise a man,
right.
And a man ain't supposed to cry. And I asked him, as an adult, the first time he cried, I said, "How did you feel about that?" He said, I don't know how I felt about it, Dad. I said, but let me ask, does it change who you are?
Right.
Can you still protect yourself? Can you still get up and go to work and do the things you need to do? He said, yeah. I said, so it was okay. Did you feel better?
You see?
He said, yeah, I felt better. I said, okay. So that's the explanation. It's
There you
okay
go.
to cry.
Yeah. And then there's an obvious thing that goes along with what you told him is you got tear ducts. So
Why you got it?
Yeah, why you got them if you weren't
But you
supposed
know
to
what?
use
I
them?
was saying wow because
Yeah.
I'm sitting beside you, man. I had no goosebumps when you said what happened to your son at 4 years old. Because that my daughter at 5 had her finger cut off. Right? Right after I got the custody. Right? So I got him at like I said, it was like 3. They were 2 years apart. So it was like 3, 5, and 7.
You said 8.
I had it wrong. It was 3, 5, and 7.
Okay.
So right after I got her, I went to an event and left her with a relative,
And the accident.
and they had the accident. And they called me on the way back from Ocean City. Your daughter in the emergency room. But we got her finger in a jar, so they may be a what? That didn't go past me.
Right.
They got her finger in a jar. I'm coming down Route 50 from Ocean City, having the ball. I'm doing 100 or better. Whatever the car could do, I'm doing it to get to the hospital. I get to Children's, and she going into surgery. And I'm feeling helpless, right? I'm feeling guilty because I wasn't there. Then I'm feeling helpless because that little baby is laying there with her hand in an ice bucket, but it's all burgundy from the blood. And she got topped off right here, right, on her finger. And they got that much of her finger in the jar, trying to determine
Can they
can they reattach it, right? And the doctor came out and said, too much time has passed. Nothing we can do. Now, I'm feeling guilty because I was partying and having a good time when it happened. So I'm feeling irresponsible, right? I'm feeling hurt. I'm crying, right? And she looked at me, and she was crying. And she said, why you crying? Right? With the same type of revere as you was talking about for your son had for you. She laying there with a finger chopped off, and she worried about me crying, right? And the doctor said, a lot of people walk around with half a finger, but she young and she gonna have to go through some pain because we can't keep her juiced up with morphine. She got to go to school. She got to do all these things. So they kept in all this trauma type events, mental health, the whole 9. But what happened was God stepped in and said that ain't the end of the story. I did everything I could do. I mean, I went to every doctor's appointment. Her school would call me. She went to school in Alexandria, and I lived in Maryland. And they would call me and say, your daughter, once again, is in the nurse's office having a pain attack. So much pain, she's shaking. I had to hit her with a shot, and the whole 9, it was crazy. 2 years later, a piece of nail bed rose out of that little stub. Now, it was down to the bone, to the knuckle. No nail bed is in the knuckle. But God had other plans. Now she just has a shorter finger. One less extension, but it's a finger, nails and everything. You know what I'm saying? And I really believe it's a direct result of me doing what was required to do, health-wise. Accountability on 1,000. You know what I mean? Because I told my job, look, if the school called, it's no question that I'm leaving. Your answer should be, when is he coming back?
Well, I'd like to take you back to what Mr. Leonard said early on so the viewers can really get an understanding that we had to practice a new, or not saying new, but a healthy lifestyle to be a parent, to be a responsible parent.
We would want to.
Yeah, I mean that's the ingredient for it.
Well,
because if you're not
healthy parents out here that's doing all right as a parent, but not as a
Well, it's
healthy
you have some unhealthy people out here that are taking care of children, not parents.
Yeah.
See, that's the difference.
And that's the difference. And I think a lot of times what you have is providers, but you don't have parents. Because when we encounter a lot of kids now, it's amazing how so many adults, not just kids, but young adults would come to me and say, "Can I call you?" Because they see that fatherly. My father's nothing like you. My father don't. He don't show no emotions. He don't. And is it all right? Is it all right that I call you dad? And I don't have a problem with that. But what it tells me is that my role in my son's life was bigger than just my son.
Right.
And it's a lot of lost grown-ups out here that lives can still be changed with just somebody to show them that they can look at them in a different light than just a person who can't get it together. Because I've seen people lives change because they were able to have somebody they can talk to now about that intimate stuff that they're going through, that without feeling like they're going to be judged or and I welcome it, because I truly believe that God gave me the gift to be a presence, because I'm a big guy. I'm 6'6", 285 pounds, and just a quick story. Many years ago, I had went to a church, and this little old lady, it was visiting, this little old lady said to me, she walked up to me, she said, "Well, God came over and told me to tell you that he didn't give you that size for sports. He gave it to you for something else." And it didn't come to fruition until I look at the job that I do. I look at the impact that I have on people's lives. And what a lot of people tell me is my size make them feel safe. And now it becomes clear to me that my size is about making people feel safe enough to talk about what they're going through, so I can help, so that we can help each other get through what they're going through. And I just wanted to go back to something that you said. You said you felt guilty when you were out partying when your daughters. I don't think it was guilt. I think it was that fatherly instinct that said that responsible part of you that said I should have been there.
I
should have
been
there.
And I don't think that was guilt, though.
And I don't. And that's why I say I don't think it's guilt, because a person who's not responsible would have probably been like, well, you know what, she got her finger hurt, let me go, be the father, be the, and they probably wouldn't have felt much at all, and for you to be able to feel that says that you had a real concern to why you shouldn't have been in, and it changed the way to me, from what I heard you say, was it changed your level of responsibility.
It definitely heightened it.
Yeah.
Let me say something, because this ties in. On a previous show, Mr. Grimes, this is where he got a segue to get in over there, shoplifting. But anyway, he said he was doing some community work, right? And the little kids call you Pops, right? Tell a little bit about that, because that's kind of like what we're talking about when Mr. Leonard was saying that, the kid came up to him. That's what made me think about it. When the kid said, "Can I call you Dad?" Yeah. He had a similar thing, and we're talking about, just being loving and caring, and a lot of those kids miss that. They might be providers, they might get the brand new Jordans and all that, but they ain't getting that type of care when it comes to, being a presence and being, there for them. So talk about it a little bit.
I'm listening to y'all speaking, And one of the things that is important when we talk about being a parent or a father, we have our Creator, as we talk about, right? So that's important. And a lot of men do not take the opportunity to sit back and really evaluate the purpose of us being built and have an emotion that we carry different from women. So being a father, we have to practice what God has set for us with a relationship with him, right? Yeah. So when we have children, we have to treat them just like we want God to treat us, so that they'll be able to grow into positive human beings, productive human beings. And having that title, father, is different sometimes when you say daddy. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us don't understand. You know, you can be a sperm donor, but it doesn't make you a father. It doesn't make you a daddy. It doesn't make you a pops. I have a lot of kids. I have so many children. 3 biological, but I can't even count all of them on my hands, the ones that have walk up to me even today and give me a hug. I just wanted to make it, for the guests, it's important that you pay attention to your walk, because your walk, as we know, sets footprints. And then whether it's a daughter or a son, they're going to follow you. And which the type of love that you give them, it makes a difference. The type of education, the exposure. The importance between mothers and women, they have this nurturing aspect. But fathers, we have this tendency to walk around like trying to be macho. And a lot of times we miss out on that nurturing part. And I was hearing you talking about when your son saw you crying. Mm-hmm. My son's, my oldest boy is 43 years old. I can cry and hug him today. Right. And he knows I'm 100,000% man, right. You know, but I'm also a father with passion and, you know, and I really care about his future. And not just because when he was 5 or 6, but I'm talking about even at 43, I'm still a father. So the importance, and I just want to say that, and I'll be quiet. The importance is that.
Don't try to get back in the.
No, I'm just want to say the importance of being a father is to make sure that we understand that it's a role to be not played but lived. Right. And it doesn't stop even after your kids become grown. And people watch you. They watch how you carry yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's important for us to make sure that we are conscious of our roles. Passion, but being hard, praying, understanding education and relationships, and the difference between a woman, that comes natural. Men, it don't. Mm-hmm. So it's very few men that are able to really get into that role and really understand their position as a father. So it's important for all of us. We have to make sure that we know that we stand in a very strong position on how that children are going to turn out. My 2 sons and my daughter, I look at them very proud of them. My daughter is more like me than my sons, which is not sometimes a good thing because she's a girl. And the one thing as a father, again, it's important that you pay attention to your relationship with the Creator and your children and how you nurture them and love them so that they understand. Your sons know it's okay to cry.
Mm-hmm. And you said something that really stuck out to me, and the mouth will tell a lie, but the walk will always tell the truth.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, like, and it's about exhibiting the lifestyle change. It's not just you change situations. Raising kids is a lifestyle change.
Yes.
You know, not, you know, and you were talking about sowing your wild oats and things like that. And for me, it was about not bringing women home to my house and introducing my son to them, especially women that I knew wasn't going to be around for a long time. You know, it was about respecting boundaries. You know, it was about being an example. Like, you know, I'm a Christian. You know, I'm a deacon in my church. You know, when I was called to these roles, even a long time ago, I knew that I had to be an example. So I prayed about my mouth, my language, you know, and I asked God to remove that negative tongue, you know, and He did that, you know. So my kids know I don't cuss, you know, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't womanize, I don't do any of those things. I try to be an example because now it doesn't just spill over to our children, but it spill over to our grandchildren.
Yes.
You know, and you know, like I tell people all the time, my ideal death is to have my kids and my grandkids say he was a great father and a great grandfather.
Yes.
You know, and you said something also. Another thing you said was the difference between daddy and father. As I reverence God and I love God, I call Him Father. So as God loves me as my father, I want to love my children and my grandchildren as their father, not, you know, daddy or cuz or uncle,
right,
you know,
right.
or OG, you know, none of that. My kids don't even go there with me.
Right.
You know, because they have a level of respect for me as well.
They reverence you.
You know, so same way I reverence God, and the Word tells us, I taught my kids, and I didn't teach them this to put me on a pedestal, but what it said was the Word tells us to honor thy mother and thy father, that the days may be long on the earth. And I don't want them to bow down to me, and I don't want them to fear me. I want them to love me and accept the love. And even when I come at them in a way where it's in a disciplinary voice, they know it's love and not a threat. You know, I hear people say all the time, you know, all my father had to do was look at me, and I knew to straighten up. I don't want that. I don't want you to live in fear. I want you to know that anything that comes from me comes from love and not from anything that I want to cause you any harm. Why would I want to harm you? I can't love you and harm you at the same time. You know, they don't fit in the same space.
It's another situation we think about. When my kids was young, I didn't know how to be a father. Mm-hmm. I was in the selfish mode for a minute, like you was talking about how you had started going out, and I was young, but it was something that when my son, both of my sons have talked to me, and my daughter as well, but I'm talking within the last 5 years, that they start telling me about how I was as a father. And one of my sons told me he hated me. And when I thought about that, I thought about the pattern and how I was conducting myself. So to our guests that's listening, it's very important that you pay attention to your footsteps, because it affects them, as my father did me. And so where am I today? My sons, they don't talk to me. I'm not their buddy. I am their father. And they can call me daddy. They call me sometimes, one of them call me pop sometimes. That's cool, it's okay. But they know their position.
Right.
And I stand in that position firmly. I am, just like I respect the Creator Yah, I want them to respect me. I'm not made like a God. I'm just made in His image. And I conduct myself accordingly to make sure that they turn out. I want my sons to be good, positive men, and my daughter to be a positive woman. And being a good father plays a big factor.
So let me intervene.
Before you get started, let our listeners and viewers know that we are in a new situation. We have a new way of contacting us. So you can pick up our show on YouTube, Facebook, formerly Twitter, now X, and on Twitch at Beltway Radio. So we're now on those platforms at Beltway Radio, and the phone number is 301-761-1040. I'm going to repeat that phone number because we're looking for We're looking for some callers to engage with us and become a part of the conversation. So that phone number again is 301-761-1040. That's 301-761-1040. So please, our listening viewers out there, come on and engage and get to this conversation. Terrence, going back to you with your point.
This is the Man in the Mirror show, the
The
show that matters.
For sure.
And we having a great conversation because there's no handbook to this.
None.
You know, but what I do hear this common and everyone sharing is it has to come from a place of love.
That's it. That's
You
the
know,
radiant
now,
force.
now the way you might conduct it or he might conduct it, and there's a lot of you know, pouring out of souls here. You know, I myself, you know, I know you guys and I done shared. I had 2 children, that's it. And I had 1 pass. But I know that in my former, like you was talking about, it's not like my ladder. You know what I'm saying? So I was on a job training. We wasn't doing a good job at first because I had no blueprint. I had no examples either, really. But I have gotten better because I've been around guys like yourself, and I've been practicing a different way. Now I got grandchildren, and they love me to death. And the daughter that's still here, we got a better relationship because of the thing you talked about in the beginning, working on self. When I worked on me and I got better, healthy, then relationships around me got better and healthy. So, but it's come from a place of love.
I want to say that because, and just piggyback on that thought, because we talked about, and we talked amongst ourselves about our natural children, then how we are kind of a magnet for other children who need that same nurturing. But I believe, this is my belief, that is the love that radiates from us, right, as we're walking this walk, as you stated, that allows those children to be drawn to us, right? It's not
Your magnet,
I'm a-
your magnet
yeah,
beats.
it's not that I'm a great sports player and they saw me shooting ball and they want to learn how to shoot ball, because I coached for 31 years. I coached a lot of kids, but as you stated and you said, a lot of those kids call me dad. They don't call me coach. They started off calling me coach, but now they're adults. Some of them are mothers and fathers and coaches. They all call me dad. Now, for me, over the years, I've had a blended mob. I got 15 kids, 10 girls, 5 boys. But 8 of them are natural. 7 of them are adopted from other relationships, but I've raised the most of them as single dad, right? So for me, I heard your comment about, the difference between a father and a dad and the like. But in my walk, it's just my own personal walk. I have some kids who have fathers, biological fathers. And my job, I try to make sure they stay in their lives because they do have a place, right?
Yeah, without question.
And I respect their position as a father. But I have some children where I've raised them from infancy or young childhood and spend more time. They live with me and not that father. But I don't degrade that relationship. I help build it. And that label stays with that man. That's your father. I'm your dad. And that segregation is something that I put forth because I want to make sure that they understand the connection to that human being and build a relationship with that human being because it's needed. Right? It's needed.
So you're talking the village
You dig what I'm
effect.
saying?
You're talking the village
It's
effect.
even beyond the village effect because you got I've had some instances where the fathers are hands off. You got to run with it.
Well, but what
And
you were
let
talking
me
about
finish
while
my
you let
point.
it, while
So
you
I
let
come back and say, but you're the father. This human being that you help procreate, life is so much more enriched when the father is a part of it, right?
But
In a positive note.
But the only thing I want to caution about that is that everybody doesn't have the capability to be a father.
That's right.
This is correct.
And those who said, if somebody was to say to me, well, you take it and run, that tells me they didn't want to be there anyway.
Well,
And-
I
and-
disagree with that only because it's situational.
Right. I mean,
Right.
I get
It's situational.
I get
right?
situational.
It's no
but
defined, like Term says, no book.
I've
right.
had people come to me and say, "Look, you seem to have a better relationship with my child than I do. Tell me what you're doing." You know what I'm saying? So to me, that's somebody who wants to fix what's broken.
Right.
You know, versus saying just take it and run. But we also have to be careful because we don't know generationally what that person been through.
Right.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
They're
But
capable, like
Well,
you
they-
said.
Let me give you a personal aspect, so I have some levity to what I'm saying, right?
Validity, right?
So,
You tell
no
me.
levity,
Okay,
just
go
kind of to even the playing on that.
Okay, even the playing field.
So, I have a daughter. I don't take it personally. I have a daughter, right, who's not biologically mine. I didn't raise her
That's
as a young
situational, though.
person. Situational. I came into her life at 11 years old, right? Me and her mom got together, lived for some years. We broke up. But because I had been such an integral part of her life, at that time, she decided, I want to stay with dad. I don't want to go with mom,
Okay.
right? And she was afforded that. But she had a father who had not been as involved, right? But because of the situation, custody went to him, right? Not to me. Because by law, right, we know where that line goes, right?
Okay.
So the custody went to him. But she was not having the greatest time with him. He contacted me and said, as you stated, what have you been doing? This little girl ain't stopped crying since she been with me. Help me out. Then it came, I need to bring her back to you. Right? But I said to him, because of that scenario, there's some building that needs to happen right there. Right? Because she had other siblings and other family and so forth and so on that she wanted to reach to and get with and, stay in life with. But situations dictated that those things didn't happen. It wasn't so that he was like non-combatant or not have the ability to be the father. It was situational. So what I decided to do is the same thing I did with my other kids who had other fathers, because I'm not a guy, I'm not pushing that fatherhood on you, right? Because I'm looking out for the child first. That's my job, right? I believe dad stands for dedicated ass dude. That's where I stand from in the dad situation. I'm dedicated to that child. It's wholeness, the whole 360. So with that said, I have worked with these fathers of children that aren't biologically mine to their capability and their limitation. I've had some that were like totally hands off. I'm out of the picture. You run with it. I'm not going to say, you the dad, you need it. No. I'm the dad. And if you're the father that doesn't want anything to do with it, that child needs to be loved and secured and protected. And I'm going to do that whether you're here or not. But for those who want to engage, I'm going to work with you and we're going to engage.
One thing I know, one
So
thing
it's situational.
One thing I know, I got to remain open because I'm on the job training no matter what.
Correct.
And that's one of the things that I want the viewers to know that, man, listen, nobody got the blueprint to this thing. Right. And I don't care how many kids you raise or whatever, we ain't got no blueprint, man. But because you can be loving, caring, and passionate, and that kid can go to school and shoot up everybody in the school. And you be like, what, stuff like that happens.
But as he said, it's really important. And I want to bring it back. When you said, you have some people say, oh, no, you handle that.
Right.
That's because they don't want the position.
They don't want the responsibility.
No father who passionately loves his child under no circumstances is going to step aside and let another man
I'm
come
going to
in.
disagree with you, Ralph.
Wait a minute, hold on,
I'm
let
gonna
me
disagree
finish.
with
Okay,
on
you
that
can.
one, boss.
You can. I'm telling you based on the fact that when you are committed to your child, you have to set your tone and your role as a father or dad or whatever you want them to call you. You have to set the tone for that. At no time do you step aside and say you handle that child who's seeking your love and affection. To me, personally, it's up to me as the father, the sperm donor, whatever you want to call it, to take on the responsibility to say, hey, I'm here. Now, I don't have a problem with befriending another man to say, hey, we have a relationship, because I have that relationship with somebody today. a young man who I'm so proud of, who just told me day before yesterday, as I sat down with him and his father, and I was telling him how proud his father is of him, and he said, you know what, my father, I am so proud of my father. He said, but you've been a father too. That's because I wanted to be in that position. Not to take the position of his father, but I'm talking about to be a nurturing individual.
See, these is.
Well,
let me say.
So I
Go ahead,
just
go ahead.
I
Go
just
ahead.
want to say
Yes,
this.
go ahead.
I just want to say this. Look, you know, I'm a substance abuse counselor. That's what I do as a career. I have today hardcore institutionalized men that have sat in front of me and cried because they never got the love of their father. And they say even when I tried to be in my father's life, he wanted nothing to do with me. And some of them have even said, I wonder how much different would my life have been if my father would have just told me one time that he loved me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you know,
I was that child.
so yeah,
So I've been there.
you know, so it's you know, it is a matter of opinion, but what shows me is what I see in front of me, the examples that I see in front of me, and I can even go back to as far as when I was running the streets. We failed a lot of generations because they watched what we did.
That's right.
Without a doubt.
You
But
know-
the point that I was making when I say I disagreed with Rodney was a lived experience, right?
Okay.
That's all I can come from is my own lived experience. As a parent, and you stated it earlier, my heart and soul, based on my love, is for that child and its best interest. If I'm not in a position to care for, see after, take care of that child, it's nothing wrong with me putting it in someone else's hands that are better. Let me finish my point. Better for that particular child at that moment. That don't mean I have to disappear or anything of that nature. But we talking about
You
what's
talking about
better
their
for
life
the
not
child
together.
at that situation.
They're talking about their life
Right.
not together, and they saying well they love their child, so they know their child is in a better situation over here.
Correct.
Where they was already at.
Correct.
I get what
I
you're
get what you're
saying.
saying.
I get what you're saying, but there's a difference in stepping completely away and saying I need to work on getting myself together so that I can be a representative of a father to that
Right,
child.
right.
You know, to me, when somebody says, "Hey, will you handle that? You take that." That's like throwing them. Look, you got them. I don't want nothing. It sounds,
But it's not as defined as that, though.
but that's the tone.
But it's
But-
not as
but-
defined. The point
It
that
may
I'm
not
making
be.
is
It may not
as
be
defined.
defined.
Right.
It may not be
One at a time.
defined as that, but the fact is when you tell a child and the child see the individual who they seeking, and they say, "Hey, I'm gonna let him handle that." No, it's not about finances. It's just the fact that I can hug you and I can say, "You know what? My life is a little messed up, but I'm here for you. I'm your dad." That means so much.
But you stated you're a substance abuse person, right?
Right.
I'm an adolescent therapist, and I've seen situations where that biological parent should be nowhere near that child.
I get that.
Okay, so there's no definitive to any of this. It's situational. So I'll give you my living experience. That individual, that daughter I spoke upon earlier, right? When she was given back to me, and I went about the business of raising her, I also went about the business of making sure that there was a relationship with her dad. How strong it was and all that was up to the two of them, right? But the love that I poured into her had her yearn less, know that she was loved, became a complete individual, and she's a grown woman with 2 degrees, living on her own, doing great. And guess what? Her and that father have a great relationship now because that break allowed him an opportunity to do what he had to do for himself, get on board with his life. And then there was a
I guess
matchup at a
it's
later
kind of
time.
how it was delivered.
So it was situational.
Yeah, and
That's what I'm saying.
I agree with you in that sense right there. But I guess what me and Sage is talking about.
Yeah, Rodney.
Rodney.
Data
What
Sage.
me- what-
Data
yeah.
Sage and
So
Sage.
I think what we're saying, there's a difference between somebody saying, "You take this while I work on me," versus saying you just take this.
But see, here's the
Exactly,
thing, though.
and that's the
Sometimes
difference.
in those situations, right, the individual who's saying take the child may not have the awareness that I needed some work, right? Life may be in a situation where you say, the child is better off with you.
Right now.
I love the child enough to know that it's not my preference, it's what's needed. I don't have the
But
capability.
didn't you say
I'm not struggling.
There's not a book on this, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So-
we're talking about a particular situation.
Yeah.
Tell lived experience.
We're
This-
talking lived
but-
experience,
yeah.
right?
So hey, listen, let's get this clear on the table. There's no gaffles. Nobody got
Correct.
a gaffle.
Correct.
So your lived experience, your lens, my lens, they might be different.
They are.
So what we're doing is for the people to give them something to gauge the fact
Correct.
that there are some loving black fathers out here,
Definitely.
and we just striving to be the best we can be.
That's it.
And if it's one good message that we need to put out there, it's this. Okay, there's a sense of responsibility when you claim the title. You could be a sperm donor, it don't mean nothing. But when a person comes to you and this is a child, we talking about setting the tone for them to come and say, "Hey, Dad," and that word right there means a lot. I have had children who has been around me that are not my biological kids to come back to me and say, "You know what? You're the only man that treated me like I was your child," and that's because I wanted to. And that was the point that I was trying to make. When if a man comes into a household and you're not the biological dad, right? You come in and all of a sudden you say, "Look, you make your bed up in the morning for this reason," and walk out the room, and don't hug him. And that child looking at me, "Yeah, that's not my father. That's not my dad. Who do you think he is?" And then that child come downstairs and sit at the table, and now, as the man in the house, you say, "Now let me explain why I told you to do this. First, because I love you. I'm here to set the tone for you." You start to take on a position, not just as a parent, but being a male figure. You start to give them that fatherly love, and then they start to gravitate to you. And it doesn't mean that they have to be your blood to start seeing you as the father. And so a lot of the kids come back today who are grown and say to me, "Pops, you was like the only father I ever had." That's because I gave that freely.
Pour it into.
I poured. So when you now,
That's the word.
yeah.
Pour it
So and I understand by example, but I'm saying I got some kids that I pushed away, and they didn't get that connection. And so that's the same thing happens with a man who is the sperm donor who pushes them away. He does not put himself in a position to be the father that he should be.
Well, how about this? How about this? You know, like
I
we
just
said,
hate to use
like,
definitive words like should.
yeah. Let
supposed to
me
be,
say.
those things.
Let me say
It's all
this.
situational.
Let me say this to kind of like right the ship. Like we said, there's no handbook on it, right? But one thing that's been consistent at the table is that we're seeking a solution. You know, it's all about solutional too, because you guys got experience. You know, a long experience of the child actually being in the house with you, and you two guys, I'm pretty sure Rodney do too. Talk about the baby stage. There's different stages because Mr. Park was talking about. Man, I had to parent different at different stages, so that you know, and you don't know what's gonna turn out. You cook at a slow pace, and you hope for the
You got
best.
the gumbo on slow heat. for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And I learned so much, man, because you know, in that situation, you have to be a strong presence, but you also got to be humble enough to allow somebody to direct you.
That's right.
Oh, without a
Yeah,
doubt.
You know, and,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes because we don't know everything, and we
Without
you
a
know,
doubt,
and
without a
like
doubt.
in the example that you just gave, whereas the difference between me and him is I'm the nurturer. I'm gonna go in the room and say, "Come on, let's make this bed together," and we're gonna make the bed together. And I say, "See how your bed look? Now this is what I want every morning, so your room can be clean when you come home and be nice and neat."
Right.
You know, And I might even do that a couple of mornings.
Yeah.
But then say, okay, now
Give
next
you
week,
some-
I want to see if you can do this. You know what I'm saying? Because in other words, what I'm telling him is I'm not asking you to do something that I wouldn't do.
Exactly.
I'm being an example. And as it relates to daughters, you know, one thing about daughters is daughters want a man that's going to love them the way that their father loved them, but in a different way.
Right.
My father respected me. My father cared for me.
Yeah.
My father provided for me. And my father protected me. That's the kind of man that I want. But if I'm not protecting her and not, you know, being that, you know, showing her how a man is supposed to love her, you know, with respect, then, you know, it leaves, you know, it leaves them out there. You know, and I think we have to set the tone for our kids. We have to set the tone for how they should be respected, what they should be, you know, because they watch us.
Yeah.
They watch us.
And it's not just our kids; it's the next door neighbor's children.
And that's
all their relations,
Yeah.
all their friends.
Yeah. So you know, when it really come down to it, the most important part is you give that fatherly love, and you give it unconditionally.
That's it.
And many of us, you know, in many cases, you know, this is not something that we know how to do on a daily basis. It's just a process of learning. I'm at 63 years old, and I'm becoming one of the best fathers that I could ever imagine.
From a younger,
what
inexperienced version.
you said, it was from experience,
Yeah, come
right?
from experience.
So from the experience which I encountered then, and where I am now, and where I'm going, my kids today, all my kids are my biological kids are over 30 years old. We can sit down and when they talk to me, it's amazing that I was beating myself up, right, about the things I didn't do. And all three of my kids have come back to me and said, you know what, Dad, don't do that. This is the type of father that you were. This is the type of father that you are. This is why we're surviving right now. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm proud of all three of my kids. And I now see that the tone that I set from the footprints that I laid some fatherly footprints that put them in a position that all kids want. Not just that mother love, but that like teaching them how to make the bed.
Right.
And understanding why they should make it. Because it's not just making the bed up, that's the whole purpose.
Right.
It's something behind
That
it.
Guys, a
agape
question.
love that you
Yeah.
be talking about.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys a question, right? And this is a hypothetical question. You can answer as you want. I was told by my grandmother years ago. She said, if you want to know what type of parent you were, watch your child parent.
So
Okay? So my question to us on the panel is, if your child is a parent, which I know you have grandchildren, have you had that great opportunity, and I call it a great opportunity, to see you as your children parent?
well, you took the words right out of my mouth. One of my proudest moments as a father was not when my son told me he was having a baby, but when we had the conversation. And I said to him, and it got a little twisted, so I'm gonna give it to you just like we, I said, okay, son, now you know you're about to be a father now, and you're gonna have to change some things about your life and some of the things you're doing. And he looked at me. He said, I don't need you to tell me how to be a father. And I said, hold up, wait a minute. He said, nah, Dad. He said, I don't need you to tell me because I watched the way you raised me. He said, because everything that you told, he said, I watched the times when you left home in the morning and came home at night to provide everything. I watched when you hugged me when I was crying. I watched. He said, even though it kind of, got on my nerves, he said, but, when you dropped me off at school and you told me you loved me every time I got out the car, you know what I'm saying? Those things. And so when I watch him interact with his son, kissing him on the cheek, telling him he loved him, picking him up, playing with him. You know, it makes me that. But here's the blessing. Watching him interact with his son and watch his son be excited with him, but also to watch his son because of the way my son treat him when he see me running, pop, pop.
Twice as exciting.
It's twice as exciting
Yeah,
because
twice as
now
exciting.
it's becoming generational.
There you go.
Yes.
You know,
That's
the
what I'm
love
talking
is
about.
becoming generational.
That's
now.
what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
And
Because
I
a
like
lot of
that. I
us-
like that. That's a good segue
Yeah.
to
So,
everything.
But I'm going to share it. I had that experience with, and it was so funny with my son, and I have one biological grandson who is my son. His father, he good dad, good father. I'm so proud of him. And so before
Is that my people?
yes,
that my people you
that's
talking
right.
about?
That's right.
We share.
We share. We
Some family members.
right.
Okay, talk about it.
His son,
So-
his son is married to my cousin.
Cousin.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my grandchildren are related to him.
His grandchildren are my cousins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was so funny.
Really, fam.
Yeah.
Really family.
Okay. Not
but-
only that, his children come from Alexander.
But let me finish this real quick. One time my son was bringing my grandson over. He hadn't been around me as much, and my sons look just like me.
They do.
So I remember the first time he was getting ready to leave my grandson with me. My son thought that my grandson was going to cry. He was prepared for that. So when he brought him in the house, soon as he came in, he had my grandson in his arms, and I went straight up to him. I said, "Give him to me." Took him right out of his arms, and he didn't buckle or anything. Right? He just looked at me, and I was holding, and I said, "Now go on about your business." My son left out. As soon as my son left out, my grandson immediately put me in a position to now I'm granddaddy.
Yeah.
But the point I wanted to make was this is again when you put that initiation out to give that leadership, that love, they receive it because you give it to them. It's not something that you have to have a book on. It's just pure love. It's pure understanding and put them in a position. And what happens now, my grandson, I can call him on the phone. Hey, granddaddy, I'm.
You know, my wife, people never can believe it, is that my wife calls me the baby whisperer.
I have a problem with something. But babies, I be on subways and stuff, and babies stir me, and my wife say it's the God in you.
Exactly. I agree with it.
They ain't
Yeah.
been.
I agree with
They
it.
haven't been that far from with him.
Yeah.
They ain't been on this earth to be
They can
tainted
identify
yet.
him right
Right.
off the
Yeah,
break.
yeah. They know him when they see him. It
I
ain't
can
me.
see him.
Yeah, it ain't me.
It's that aura. But you know what? I'm glad you said it because it's the same God in you that they see. It's the same aura that you elude to the older ones. Right? You talk about your sons, your daughters, you know, my walk, your walk today. As we become more God-like, right? We become more loving individuals because God is love.
Come on,
I know him, right?
And I tell you, like we work on the same
yeah.
unit, right? We have incidences. Sometimes people might misconstrue some of my tactics or his tactics or whatever, right? But the same guy today that we had the situation with, right? He gave me a hug when he left. So you know, it's people can sense when you coming from a place of love,
Of purity.
yeah.
I wanted
yeah.
to go back to what you just said, and as you were saying, one of the things is children. You can't lie to them.
No.
You don't have to open your mouth. Kids know when they come in my house. I don't care. When you come here, you follow my rules, and my rules is you're not having that. But at the same time, come on, let's go. They follow me because they feel that aura, and if we mimic the proper attitude that we want or we wanted from our father, and I'm not talking about the creator, I'm talking about our biological father, we then set that tone for that kid to seek it.
Well,
You-
I understand one thing I'm glad I'm gonna just chime in real quick.
Go ahead.
You know, like I had to have some forgiveness with my parents, right? And it freed me. It wasn't about them, right? But because I started looking at it from the lens that God started to give me a different way to look
Yes.
at it. And now me and my dad, I can call him up. You know my dad. I call him up now, and man, he started talking to me, telling me stuff he ain't never used to tell me.
Well, you
So
know,
the relationship changed when I changed.
One thing that's been a helpful practice for me is recognizing, and this is a question that turns. I ask my patients this all the time. What were you doing a half hour ago? While I was sitting here looking at TV, I said, now explain to me how you can go back and change that. Well, I can't change it because it's in the past. So why do we hold on to the past and let it dictate our future? We have to let go of the past. The only way that I can move forward is to let go of the past because I can't change it anyway.
Yeah.
It's behind me.
Yeah.
But yet I still let it dominate my thinking and my decision making,
goodness.
and I can't move forward.
Yes.
So now that I realize I can't change it, how about I just move forward? And what made me think of it was when you said when you beat yourself up sometimes about the dad that you was. You can't change that. But what you can do is become the best dad that you can be now to move
Which
forward.
most important.
And
You see what I'm saying?
You know what's funny about that? Because I talked about the forgiveness. With my dad, right? I know the little boy in me wanted a relationship with my dad. So instead of me holding on to some stuff like you was talking about that I can't change, I said, well, look, I'm not going to look for him to do anything. The little boy want the relationship. So the little boy get on the phone and say, hey, Dad, how you doing? And I get outside myself, and usually that's how, my creative work. When I get outside of myself, he usually take care of me.
Well, you know, man, and I've always been a mama's boy. I mean,
He said,
you know,
no shame about
and
it.
My son is 6'7". I'm 6'6". My daughter is 6. You know, my oldest daughter is 6'2". And my mother is barely 5 feet. May she rest in peace.
Yeah.
But it's something about, and it's not just with women, but with men too. It's something about the love that comes off of those people that make you that little boy. When I got around my mother, I don't care how old I am, I become that little boy.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I become, sometimes I would go and I would just lay on the bed beside her. You know what I'm saying? Just, and it's the same way with my daughter. Sometimes she'll just come and lay beside me, and it's completely innocent, but it's my daughter, one of my daughters always say, she said, no matter where I'm at, when I think of you, I just become that 3-year-old little girl or that 5-year-old little girl because I think of the way that you nurture me and the way that you comfort me and the way that you protect me, and I think that's what we all long for.
Yeah.
And you know something.
Good stuff.
My
Good stuff.
my kids, my 2 boys are bigger than me now, but the love that I've given them and the protection, I know that when my boys are with me, they feel that protection. My daughter too, and it's not because I'm big, it's because of the father love I gave them, and they know I will die for them. Period. It's not an if and buts about it. And the other good part is they're watching me as I'm changing day by day. I got to give honor and praise to God about something because you just answered something for me. When you said you got to let go of the past. It's very, very important. And I want to say that to anybody who's struggling. The past you got to let go in order to move forward. So I'm glad you mentioned that. That's outside of just being a father. It's
Praise
just,
God.
yeah,
Praise God.
because
That's
that,
the way to go.
yeah, that was.
I always thought that was a nice piece because he uses it with the group, and a lot
Very
of times, we have to encourage each other.
Yes.
I notice, and I come in the group and I say, well, Mr. Parker said this. And I said, give him that thing, Mr. Parker, that you get. Because when they see the unity, I'm talking about as anyone who's trying to influence for the better, when they see the unity that you have with one another, they gravitate more to that. They gravitate.
I mean, not only does iron sharpen iron, but love attracts love.
Yeah.
right? But I want to go back to a point that both of you guys made in regards to children. Now, like I said, I got 10 daughters, right? I got 7 adult daughters. My oldest daughter's like his son, 43. My youngest is 15, right? You talking about acting like a child. Whenever we have an event or that we're all together, like if I'm Sunday, they come over for dinner. I'm watching the football game, and I'm comfortable, right? First thing is, pow, one of them daughters is on that knee. Pow, one of the daughters is on this knee. Now, I'm talking about daughters that are married with children. But they back to 5, 6 years old. They on this knee, right? And this might be 43, this might be 35. But then the baby come in, the 15-year-old come in and go, get off my dad's lap. You got a husband. You should be on his lap. And they refer to him and say, but that's my daddy. Then my daughter, I have a daughter who's an international pop star. In her walk of life, just naturally in the business she gets propositioned by men all the time. They shower with gifts, opportunities, and things of that nature. But I've heard her say on several occasions to men who kind of like overstep, right?
Set bounds.
She say, look here, I don't need nothing for you. And they were like, I can give you. She said, I got it, Dad. I got it, Dad. And I've heard her say this to millionaires who could settle for life. I got it, Daddy.
And I
don't need all those false trinkets and all that. I got it, Daddy.
One of the beautiful things I ever seen was Nate and all them kids, and how much they love and revere him. And they know him.
Yeah.
Hey, look,
you remember when
and they know him too.
When he brought him in the studio.
Yeah.
I got to give him that.
Yeah.
One of the things that again, it's your walk. I go back to the fact that you love being a father.
Oh, without a doubt.
Oh, I know. I saw that.
Without a doubt.
And so that when you go back, we were talking about, not everybody have that passion. No. I know that's for a fact because I got people in my family that's like that, who really has no clue about being a father, okay? Who really does not look at it on a note to say, you know what, I'm going to still be the daddy even though she's 43 years old or 33 and let her sit on my lap, because you got to give her that.
But I'm going to share this with you, and I don't say this often, but that decision to want to be a daddy was born out of pain and suffering.
Yeah.
Right? Because I didn't have a father in my life, right? I saw my dad in 6-year intervals, 6, 12, 18, 24. They weren't always pleasant intervals, right?
Well, see, the thing
But
was
let me finish my point.
It was in
But in my walk, I had a grandfather who was my hero. He was a superhero.
Your main man.
Beyond that, I'm talking about a fictional character, right? So, during the Rise of King, right? We came here, we moved here from Philly during the King Rise, right? And I can remember as this happening right this morning. My grandfather and I are sitting on the stoop, and he reads the paper, hands to me, and I read the paper. We see a group of teenagers chasing this young white teenager down the street. And they throwing bottles and bricks at him, and he's bloodied and everything, right? My grandfather got off that stoop, stood in the middle of the street and put his hand out and said, "Stop!" And I seen all these guys fumbling over each other, trying to stop and not pass him, right? And he said, he didn't kill Martin. Now walk him to the avenue and put him on the bus. And nothing better not happen to him. And I'm watching this happen. I'm 7 years old. Can you imagine the impression that left on a 7-year-old? For this man to do that and control the whole neighborhood and say, to me, it looked like he controlled the entire world, right?
That's y'all world.
Because that was my world, that one little block. But it had to be 30 kids chasing this guy, right? And I said, I want to be him. And he had kids. He took care of everybody. Never complained or anything like that, right? But then I had incidents in my life where father wasn't around, and it built up this thing that I would never want a child to experience some of the experiences I had because of the absence of a dad.
I'm gonna tell you
or a
this
father.
though, I can identify with, the balance, how God he puts the gumbo together and all that, because I'm a grandma's boy. Like you was a mom boy. I call my grandma mama. From the day I was born. My dad's mom now, and then check this out. Y'all hear me say with the situation with my dad's mom, Mrs. Ledbetter, was my mom. From the day I was born until 7 years old when my mom took me. And then she died when I was 14. So basically I was over there every week anyway. And she told me something, she poured into me something. She said, I was created to help guide you. She told me this one day. She said, when I die, she said, all you're going to have, she said, brace yourself, all you're going to have is God. So my understanding back then, like a lot of you talked about your understanding at the point, was that I wouldn't have nobody. There wouldn't nobody care. But now my understanding later on in life, like as I sit here right now, like you saying you can't change things, is that God would send the people. It may not be the people you expect, but he would send the people. Because my real grandfather passed when I was 1, and the man that she was with from the day, even after she died, he helped guide me. And then I thought when I was young, he used to tell my grandma, stop babying. And I thought he hated me. But when I went through my trials as teenagers and stuff, that's the man that took me in. Yeah. And he was proud to say, hey, this is my grandson.
But
so
but
you never
all,
know.
But all the life lessons that we can give our kids, we can give them a whole bunch of life lessons.
Yeah.
And they're going to all be relevant. Yeah. But it's something that he just said. It's sometimes it's that one lesson that becomes that tattoo that's permanent in our memories that helps us when we're ready to give up and ready to throw the towel in when things get tough. And you'll never forget what your grandfather did. Yeah. And when you're ready to throw in the towel, you'd be like, well, you know what? Granddad would have never, that strong man would have never done that.
I could pull from that strength.
Because it was something that was instilled in you. Yeah. And I think a lot of times, I tell the clients this all the time. Sometimes you got to take a journey back in your life to see what things went wrong for you. And then when you do that, it gives you a blueprint to see what can I do to change where I'm going now. Because a lot of times, we get lost in situations, but we forget about the life lessons that was put there because we're so focused on the situations. But if we dig back sometimes into those life lessons at 7 years old, that when you became a man, that life lesson gave you a road to follow to say, you know what, never give up. This is who this is what you come from. Yeah. These are the genes that were built into you. Right. You know what I mean? And what I will say without, I don't want to make it seem like that we're bashing fathers in here because we're not.
Not at all.
We're not. What we're doing is we're saying that people father different, people have different life experiences. Some people never had an example as a father. Yeah. Right. But what we're saying to you is that there's always somebody out there that can give you direction if you just open your eyes and look. And sometimes, and this is me just being who I am, sometimes you got to take your eyes off the trauma of your father and put it on somebody who can be a father. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So now when you're at a point now where you realize I will never have that relationship with my father. But somebody
then
is
have to be the
willing to
people-
be a father to me. I need to take that and accept that and let it just kind of get my spirit. You know
and
what
I
I mean?
believe that the Creator made it so.
Without question.
And that's why I was making a point.
The Creator made it so.
That with my grandfather, 'cause he definitely was my grandfather. That now it's come full circle. You
Well,
know,
that- and
you
that
know,
goes-
you know.
yeah,
Yesterday
and
was
that-
my grandson's birthday,
Yeah, and that goes,
he's not.
that goes back.
He's
to,
he's my wife's son,
Right.
son, and I'm the only papa he know.
Right, but that
From
goes
day
back.
one.
That goes back to what I said about the lady in the church that told me God didn't give you that size to play
Right.
sports.
Right.
He gave you my statue and the love and the things that emanate from me that God blessed me with. Because I gotta first make sure that I give God the glory.
That's right.
Everything in my life and everything that I am is because of Him.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, and I have to say that.
Yes.
You know, because I don't want to feel like I'm in control of anything because I'm not.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But He spoke that into me a long time ago. And that's why I believe that I am the man that I am now. And I welcome it and I nurture it, you know, and the only way that we can grow is we have to continue to feed it. And the way I feed it is by giving it to the people who need it. You know what I'm saying? I'm always open.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's a thug, what you want to consider a thug, whether the ex-convict, whatever, whoever you are, I don't care if you was a murderer and you looking for, you know, direction, you know, I'm going to give it to you. If I can get whatever I can give you, if you can get something out of it, then I'll give it to you.
You know,
Before you come in with your statement, right? I just want to say this to our listeners, right? We're talking about, and what we've alluded to in our conversation, is the ability for black men to father.
Yes.
Right.
Let's not
It's
lose
being
focus.
done.
right.
So
and
Look,
we have several ways that it's done, but it's being done.
Being done.
That myth has been slayed, put to
The
bed,
ball.
and let's talk about the elephant in the room for 1 minute before you go there. Understand that we did not create that myth.
Yeah.
Like most myths in our lives as black men, we did not create them. They are designed by others
to destroy
to
that.
destroy us and
Yeah.
hide us in the shadows so our future generations can't prosper from our
But now here
participation.
on Man in the Mirror, it's gonna be debunked and
There you go.
and
Go ahead, Rodney.
It's gonna
So-
say
So it's something that when you're talking about this, we're talking about, and this is for the audience to understand. Father, daddy, or whatever the case may be, is not all the time by blood. I grew up on the block, 500 block of Payne Street. Okay,
where's that at?
Alexandria, Virginia, Old Town Alexandria, right?
That right.
That little LA? Or
Look, that's
Yeah,
Little
I-
LA.
ain't
But
no-
let me.
Don't everybody don't know that.
Don't throw that in
Right,
there.
right.
Don't throw
But-
that
but
Alexander
let-
stuff in there. I
let-
gotta act like I belong,
Look,
right?
let me finish this. All the men on that block were fathers to me.
Yeah.
My father was very abusive. My father used to drink and beat us every Friday. Saturday is police. I'm talking from 7 years all the way up to 15, 16 until I was able to start to defend my mom. But it was the man next door. It was Otis Jones. It was Mr. Gaines. It was Mr. Holloway. It was Mr. Ferguson. It was Mr. Harris. It was Mr. Ben. It was Mr. John. It was Mr. Willis. All of Mr. Johnson. All of these guys was my father. They caught me doing different things, snatch me up and say, yo, you know better. And it wasn't the snatch me up part that got me, is because I knew that they cared about me, because I knew they was my protectors, and I knew they were setting tones, and I watched the things that
It
they
sounded
were
like
doing.
they were all black fathers.
All was black fathers.
Now, they weren't black ones.
Huh?
They weren't all black fathers.
Oh, yes, they were.
Because this is a myth going on.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Who
But
started that lie? It wasn't us.
no. And guess what? And somebody, you remember on one of our shows, we talked about this. I don't know which one of you I brought it, but I think you had said, you asked this question. How many?
I said,
it would,
yeah. You talking about how many blacks are in college compared to in penitentiary?
penitentiary.
Black men.
Yeah, right.
Black
Yeah.
men.
Yeah, you remember you brought that up?
and that was a
And
myth.
everybody thought
Everybody
it was
thought.
more black men in jail
Than it is
than
in
those
college.
in college.
Right.
But the true nature and the numbers bear out that there are more
and we
black
actually
men,
looked it up, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
more black men in college
Than
than they are in jail.
And there are more good fathers than there are bad.
Missing. That's right.
But I will say this, and you know, even and I have a heart for even some of the men in jail. Let me say that. For 7 years, every year for 7 years, I went to Angola State Penitentiary and volunteered. The church had this program called Awana, which is it's a children's program, you know, a children's thing in the church, and what they did was a thing called the Returning Heart Celebration. And what it was a program in the prison system down south they called the Malachi Dads. And what these men would do would go through these programs, and if you went through the program successfully for a year, you earned a day with your kids. Most inmates in Angola State Penitentiary are in there for life without parole. And Angola does a rodeo, so they have rodeo grounds and things like that. So I would go down there, of course, with other volunteers, would go down there every year, and they would assign you to some children. If he had 3 children, it'd be the 3 children and that inmate, and you stayed with them in the prison the whole day. And you know, just to be able to be a part of seeing a father who missed most of their kids' life, just even have that moment. That one moment could make a difference in it. Even if they would never get out of there, that one moment may have given them the will to just say, you know what, I can live. You know, I don't have to give up. You know, or just for the fact, even if I could feel like a father for that moment, you know, that's a hell of a feeling.
And it goes both ways, 'cause I'm sure those children was as impacted
They were.
with their father.
Yeah.
Right?
But
That moment
the
you was
beauty,
talking about,
the
that
beauty,
moment.
but the beauty of it. This was the beauty. This was the tragedy and the beauty of it. Was when it was time to go, them kids wouldn't let their fathers go.
Right.
They held on. We had to sometimes literally
Pull 'em
pull
apart.
them away. You know, and that moment for me to see that was that child would never forget that moment, even if they never got a chance to see their fathers again. That moment could have defined a place in their life where I'm going to be the best dad or the best mother that I can be, so my kid would never have to go through
this.
You talk
Or
about,
it could have been for that fleeting moment. The answer, does my dad love me or not?
Yep.
yeah, that's a
That's
good
an
answer.
answer.
There it is.
And you know,
And that one moment is enough to carry your lifetime.
Lifetime.
Sometimes.
So I just didn't want to forget those brothers either.
Right.
Because
we definitely understand.
Just because they not present in their lives doesn't mean that they don't have a desire
Right.
to be a father.
yeah, even them.
And you don't have to be a father physically all the time. You can father your child through a phone or through a letter.
Right.
The attempt, and the child will never forget. Every week I got a letter from my dad.
So what I'm hearing basically is what we said earlier was, it's an exchange of love.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
And you know, I
Simply
want to share this.
From a man
It's
to
funny,
a child.
It's funny we
the exchange of love.
talked about the incarceration fathers, right? I got the honor, and we talked about the gift. I got the gift of going tomorrow into DC jail to talk to a bunch of men tomorrow, right? John, my buddy John Davis, he goes in there twice a week. So he chose to take me. So that's an honor, you know, and that's the byproduct of following God. You get these chances and those opportunities to pour in, like you said, to pour into someone else, because somebody poured into us, even though it might not have been what we thought was enough or whatever, but we got poured into.
Oh, without a doubt.
So you know that mother, that grandma, that grandfather, you know, those guys in the neighborhood, that showed they cared. I mean, somebody poured into us even in our darkest times. We had somebody that they didn't have to be our biological.
I done seen some dark times, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'm sure we all have.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say this about Black fathers. Not only do they exist,
They thought it was like a unicorn, right?
right? Not only do Black fathers exist, but I'm gonna tell you something. Let me say this. This is my own belief and
Yeah.
from my own lived experience.
Yeah.
I firmly believe through my walk, and now as an educator again, that I have seen that the most complete human being that has an opportunity to raise a child is a Black father. And I'll say this why, because particularly in America, we know the plight of a Black man. We under the microscope, under the thumb, under the couch, under the rug, we under every rock. Everything is always a burden for us, for the most part, because it's just the world we live in. It's how it's designed.
Right.
For us to participate and survive all of that and still have that ray of God shine through us and impart that on a young person, be it biological or not, does what my grandfather did for me that day. It creates a superhero that I want to be, right? So when I said earlier about that blessing and you refortified it about watching your child parent, right? I've raised some great kids. I've been fortunate. I've seen other people raise great people. But to have that greatness cascade through the generations, somebody got to be a parent again, right?
But now let me just and I didn't mean to cut you off. Excuse me, but I also because I have invested enough father into my son, I need to know when to step back and be a consultant as well. Because
Talk
sometimes,
about it.
he has to learn how to be a man as well and be a father, and which means that sometimes I got to step back and just give advice.
What that sound like? We had a show on that, remember? On parenting.
Oh yes.
And I talked about the book that I'm writing.
Yeah, so
And
I'm
you know what's
Same
funny?
thing he just said.
I'm a consultant.
He
Even
said
in consultancy
he
right
said
now.
he
But
got
when
so
he
much
need-
shade that the boy might not get no sunlight.
When he need me to be a father, I
Yeah.
can be a father.
You step in.
But I need to step back and be a
And
consultant.
let him do
when
his
I
thing.
need to be
And,
there.
and that is important for many men to understand that it's okay to step back sometime and just look at your product,
Right.
and say, hey, okay, you're not doing a bad job, and then you be the consultant and pull us some. Next time, just want to put a little bug in.
But because of the father that you invested in him, he's willing to take that and
Right.
not take it in a
Negative
negative
way.
way.
Right.
You know what's
That's
funny?
that relationship you
Yes.
built over
That-
time.
that-
You know what's funny?
that's
is what
very
popped
important.
What popped up on this screen right here, and for our guest, this guy, I do go-go. So this young guy, right, out in Virginia, Fredericksburg, his son been playing basketball, and he's been posting a lot of stuff about his son playing basketball. But it's funny, like when we're talking about Black parents being dads, look what it says.
I just want my son to look back and be proud to have me as a dad 100%.
That's Amani Washington. He played for Major League band, and he's a young guy, but he's parenting. He's a young black.
I think
Doing a great
that,
job.
like in any job, any profession, we all like an accolade or two. But as I stated earlier, as my grandmother told me, you don't know how good of a parent you are until you see your child parent. I can be a great parent and raise a great human being. And that can go out into the world and be great. But when I watch that child parent
You drove that one
successfully,
home. But I need
Right.
you to do this real quick though, because we don't have that much
Yeah.
time. Get that number again, because we need
Yes,
to get somebody
so-
coming in.
we are on YouTube, Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, and Twitch. Beltway Radio. Follow us on those platforms.
And
And our phone number is 301-761-1040. And we only got about 10 minutes left. If you want to get in, caller, this is the time. But we're here again the last Thursday of every month.
yes, we are.
Same bad
Unless
channel,
something
same
happen,
bad station.
And sometimes when we're at the new studio, it's been informed to me when they have longer weeks, in the month, that we may have to do it a week before the last one. So that only happened. They said it's going to happen like twice before.
But we'll keep you informed
Yeah.
those times.
Yeah, it's
But
only
our
going to happen
standing
twice.
time is always
Yeah.
the last Thursday of the month, 7 p.m. Right here on YouTube, Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Twitch, Beltway Radio, 301-761-1040. Man in the Mirror.
And
Let's
also
keep
we'll
it
be
to-
on our own personal pages.
Of course.
Yes.
You get Mr. Rodney Grimes, you get Mr. Boo Jones, you can get Nate Jenkins. You do as you always done. Connect to us on Facebook. Now, for our esteemed guests, do you have any mechanisms out there that folks can contact you if they would like to continue the conversation or get some tutelage from yourself? Do you have
Social
anything of that nature, any social media or any advice as to, where help may be for other fathers?
You can look me up on Facebook at
It's all good.
that's, I'm so focused, man.
As Big Daddy, Lily Pop.
No, Big L. Parker.
I knew it was I knew.
Big L. Parker on Facebook.
See, I didn't even know. I just took
All right. So let me just say this, man. For the guys out there who are fathers, keep doing what you're doing, get better at it.
Yeah.
For the guys out there that are considering to be fathers, seek a father. Seek some advice, seek some help, seek some counsel. And for those out there who stumbled into being fathers, if you're anything like me, somebody want to come to you with a Maury Povich moment and say, you are the daddy, help is available. Fatherhood is a great experience. Black fatherhood
Yeah.
is an even greater experience because we have come from a situation in our ancestral past that we were counted out and then counted.
A whole lot of barriers
Right.
and obstacles.
We were counted as property, not as people. Now we're people continuing on this path and this journey as black fathers. So we have a unique responsibility, not only to our family, but to the world itself. The
We
more
need to be
success
like
we
those
have,
men
the better the
in-
world
in
is.
Rodney's community.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah.
to be. We need to be like that, also. But everywhere we go.
But know you being watched now. There's some
everywhere
kids
we go,
out there
but-
looking at you
But
that you don't even know.
something we also I would like for the viewers not to forget, and something that was important that you said. Don't let your past dictate your future in a way that you give up. You can always take a negative and turn to a positive, no matter what. And my father was an abusive man. I love my children. My children love being around me. I didn't like being around my dad, but I'm saying that's what I do in this time. And so fathers out there who's struggling, you had a father that was a drunk or a addict or whatever. Sometimes you don't know his story. So don't get caught up in that negative energy and say, oh, well, it is what it is. You can move forward, be the best dad you can be.
So, on that note, like with my dad, now since we have an open line of communication, I kind of heard his story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I kind of like nourished the little boy that was hurt with him. Because he was hurt as a child. He went through some obstacles. He had some struggles.
One of the things that I want to say, and I say this for me, but you're welcome to use it, is that before I could become anything greater than what I am, I had to put God first.
That's first.
And the God in my life is what led me through the struggles that I've been through. And always keep in mind, man, that the only way that we can get to healing is we have to go through the pain, because without pain, there's no healing.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
And as black men, we've suffered a lot of pain, and some of it not to our own doing.
Right.
Right.
So let's stop being a commodity for them to build prisons, and let's start being fathers.
Yes.
That we can guide our children so
Yes.
that they don't become commodities.
That's right.
And let's just show we better can show them better than we can tell them.
That's right.
That you know, black fathers are alive. We're real and we're standing strong.
And if y'all don't believe it, I pay attention to Man in the Mirror.
I want
I'ma
to
tell
leave
you
with this
'cause
one
we-
thing.
Well, hold on, bro.
Go
We're
ahead.
gonna have to give him the last one. Though.
Yeah.
We
So
gonna
that's
run
how
it
we
back.
do
We
that.
gonna run it back.
No.
We gonna run it back. Go
But
ahead, Rodney.
I
You got
wanted to
5
say,
minutes.
you know,
Actually, we got
on-
10 minutes.
on Man in the Mirror, one of our main goals have been to deal with the elephant in the room,
Yeah, that's how.
and that's what we do. And so a lot of times you can go back and still look at some of our past programs, and you talking about parenting. We had some hell of a guests come in.
Got one today.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I'm talking about just what we've been doing
Yeah.
and the pattern in which we sit.
Yeah,
You know,
always.
we
But you know what? He said it. It's the God that we prescribe to
and we praise.
that does it. He does the work. We just show up.
Yeah.
He do the work, and it's been another great show because he's been the focal point of everything. Just like what you were saying, Nina. When God is the moderator and the quarterback and the driver, then it usually work out for the people that allow them to drive and moderate and it usually work out for that person.
I want to say the cycle of life is real, right? So I want to give this message to all black fathers out there. In America, before we had names, we had numbers. We came over in chattel slavery, we had numbers. 1 black male, 1 female child, 2 adults. We all had numbers before we had names. Our responsibility as black fathers, one of the responsibilities, is that when your child is born, you give it a name. Don't allow your absence, lack of responsibility and connection, allow someone else to give your child a number to replace their name. Right?
So, with that being said, Mr.
Close us out.
Yeah, close us out. Give us some of that words of esteemed wisdom.
I wanna say this because I'm very transparent about who I am. And I want to say this to those who are struggling, that none of us are perfect. God took a PCP and crackhead and turned him into the man that I am today. I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, I'm a deacon in my church. I'm respected, but it's only because of God. So don't let who you are right now or your struggles define you and make you believe. Don't let society make you believe that you can't turn it around.
Right.
So
And
don't.
it's been how many years?
I've been free from drugs and alcohol for 38 years, and I just want you to be encouraged, because sometimes even in our darkest moment, there's a light if we just look for it.
Yes.
And I want to thank y'all for allowing me to be here today.
Hey, man, thanks for coming out, my brother.
No problem.
All
Much
right,
respect.
all right,
much
all
respect,
right, all
much
right,
respect,
all right.
bro. Much respect.
But I knew
So
it'd be
once again,
I knew it'd be a dynamite show because God don't he don't never
make no
fail me.
mistakes.
He don't never fail. Like, look, if your life is God guided, that means everything's gonna work out for your favor, even if it's gonna be rough because you are resistant or in the way. It's still gonna work out for your favor.
and you know something. If we really look around, we come a long way, and we doing really good. Yeah. They want many individuals want us to believe that we are doing bad or we're still struggling, but we got many positive black fathers, black men that are now we can sit down and we can talk about these positive things and talk about
And you
our Creator without feeling.
You talking about the transparency though, man. Excuse me. You know, Nate don't mind me saying it. Man, we was those guys that you had to come into the penitentiary and see at one time.
well
You know, and now, you know, I think Nate Your abstinence is about how many? 30 years.
30 years.
30 years. Mine's is be 22 in a couple of days. You know, not too far from now. And that not only just the abstinence, but working on the man. You know, doing construction on the man, allowing God to work on the person. That's what changes.
But you know, when you just said that, I'm not trying to belittle anybody, but I never have really had a drug problem.
No, everybody
I've never really been incarcerated.
Everybody don't have it.
No. Reason why I'm saying that is this: we have a lot of people want to portray that you know all black men had drug problems and things of that nature.
Yeah,
it's not the case.
You're a military man.
I'm a military man.
Yeah, he went to the military.
But I was brought up with God in my life, all my life.
So that's a good thing that you said, right? Everybody don't have to go that route. He didn't go to penitentiaries or nothing, but he went through his own travel. He didn't go to penitentiaries.
Yeah, but and here we have a lot of times the
society, the people
to,
the neighbors talking about.
To paint that picture.
Yeah. And that's what we
you know
need to
what I mean?
dispel.
That we're not here. We're not a positive force.
Well, let's end this by looking at the elephant in the room.
Go ahead. Let's address it. Go on, address it, Nate.
Let's just be real frank. You don't have a need for other races to step to the mic and say, we doing a good job as fathers.
Yeah.
You don't have a podcast saying, white fathers are great. They're around. Mexican fathers are great, they're around. Other nationalities are great and they're around.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why it is imperative that we speak out to identify the fact that black fathers are around. Because there is a narrative that was created when the first ship landed that we were not going to be anything other than a procreator, a breeder, right? That we're not going to connect to our offspring and be a positive influence in their lives in the generations going forward. We were numbers. Now we have names. But the elephant in the room is real simple.
Yeah.
The man with the power write the rules. The man with the power creates his story.
Yeah.
The man with the power runs media that propagates whatever narrative they want to push.
That's right.
To the masses, right?
But
If
today,
one man, I'll give you a prime example, and I'll pass from this. Yeah. Years ago, during the election cycle, the Democrats were winning, hand over foot in all the polls. The election was a month away. They bought out Willie Horton, one convict who committed a murder. And they said, elect these folks, they're going to let all the blacks out of jail and they're going to kill up everybody like Willie Horton. One man changed the dichotomy of this entire United States. Forget all the polls, all the votes went the other way. Only because that media was so powerful.
that narrative.
They can take that one narrative and make it the truth across a landscape.
Yeah.
And that is what happened to us as black fathers. Our community is not as small as the narrative makes it. We are great numbers. Great numbers. Our results are even greater than the numbers we have. But the narrative, because we don't control the media outlets, we don't control the systems and things of that nature. We'll wrap it up by saying, here on Man in the Mirror, we speak the truth. We speak solutions. We have great guests that can come in and educate the masses.
We got to go, and we're going to be back here next month, and we're going to have another Dynamite show where we're going to thank again Mr. Leonard Parker for coming out. And it's been a great show and a lot of good information. And we out here.
We done, but we back when?
Next
Thursday. The last Thursday of the month. Same bad time.
Man in the Mirror. What is it, Sage?
It's that talk show that matters.
It is the talk show that matters.